Hello, and welcome to the world of Pokemon. My name's Professor Noki, and you're tuned in for the News with Noki on Noki Talks. Today, we will be discussing the continued Pokemon Sword and Shield controversy, as well as other information about the games. Some Pokemon Go updates that will be coming our way, as well as some really fun areas that Marvel's been in the news, rounding it off with the continued conversation that's been at somewhat of the forefront of gaming lately regarding loot boxes. To start with, we'll talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield's continued controversy regarding the National Dex and its removal from the upcoming games. I would really like to start out by giving my thoughts on how I do believe that there can be more of a conversation taking place about this topic rather than constantly casting down the other side for their views and opinions. Many people in the community are guilty of this, and I really feel like the best thing moving forward as Pokemon fans is to really discuss these issues openly without immediately making the other side feel like they're wrong in their opinions. There are a lot of reasons why both sides have very adequate stances, and both should be heard. I can absolutely see from a developer standpoint how it would take a lot of work to rebalance 900 or 1,000 plus Pokemon to make all of them be able to battle and interact and actually have value individually in the game amongst that entire sea of the roster of Pokemon that exists. In the future, this is something they definitely could work out and can take more time to develop, since they do see an outcry from the fan base regarding the exclusion of some of these Pokemon from the games. And even the developers themselves have relented that since this situation has come to light, they have even started considering the idea of updates to involve Pokemon in the future. However, I will still assert that we don't even know the full extent of which Pokemon will or will not be included in the games. So to have a massive amount of outrage right now is very premature, as there could be a very minimal amount of Pokemon that are excluded, and as such, it could be easy for them to eventually add those in as well. On the other side of things, I can definitely understand and do relate myself to the fear that your favorite Pokemon of all time might not be the one that makes the cut. For some, this very well could determine their overall opinion of these games, as they might have traveled with some of these Pokemon since their earliest days in their adventures. As some of you may know, in a recent poll on Reddit, 52,000 people were asked what their favorite Pokemon of all time was. And the results were kind of indicative of why this situation is so controversial to begin with, as only 4 Pokemon were not selected. And of those 4 Pokemon, their evolutions were. And overall, most of the Pokemon got a pretty even spread of votes, with the top winner Charizard only receiving 1,107 votes, with the second place runner-up Gengar receiving 1,056, and the third place runner-up Arcanine with 923 out of 52,000. So do I believe this is a real conversation that should be taking place? Absolutely. But do I think that casting another person's opinion down or saying that people aren't real Pokemon fans or that they're overreacting is a good tactic to use? Absolutely not. We as Pokemon fans must come together with the developers and find a balance between the way that they develop the games and the way we enjoy them. As I said in a previous video, I will be a little bummed if my favorite Pokemon don't make it into these titles. However, that will not overall determine my opinion of the games. I am still going to buy them and try them out. I am still very excited for this new experience in the Galar region. I'm overwhelmed with the anticipation of meeting all the new Pokemon and possibly new forms that come with that. So ultimately, my sentiment on this entire conversation is that I feel like everybody should have the patience and wait until these games come out and we can try them for ourselves. We can see the entire roster of Pokemon that's included. We can enjoy the new mechanics of the battling and the games. We can see the new open world, all of the new exciting things that Game Freak, Pokemon, and Nintendo are bringing to us. And now for other Pokemon news. For those of you who hadn't seen, there was a study that came out a while back that actually showed that those of us who have played Pokemon since our earliest days in childhood have developed a region of our brain that has stored all of the data of these games and our experiences in them. Somewhat of a Dewey Decimal System or encyclopedia of the different attributes and characters that we learned through our years in the game. What they've been finding through these studies is that this this can actually be used for the treatment of neurological irregularities such as those on the spectrum of autism. Now, I've seen personally and firsthand the power that Pokemon has to influence positively those on the spectrum, as my own son would fit this description. It makes me very excited that this is becoming a mainstream conversation and how Pokemon can be a positive influence in all children's lives when used appropriately, especially when enjoyed alongside their parents. And now for Pokemon Go. Arriving to us in 6 days on June 29th, everybody is going to have the chance and opportunity to catch a Raikou, as well as possibly coming across its shiny form. Also, starting on July 1st and lasting until September 1st, field research is going to be given an update, which includes Latias, Latios, Kyogre, and Groudon from the Hoenn region. Trainers must complete 1 full week of research tasks to be given the opportunity to catch these Pokemon, as well as receive various other rewards. For all you shiny hunters out there like myself who love to torture themselves, Shiny Spinda will be coming along with a new Spinda via field research. As well as today, a new variant of Deoxys, its speed form, will be available to trainers who receive the EX Raid Pass as well. And to wrap up the Pokemon Go news, there has been a bit of a tease via Datamine that we could possibly be seeing the entry of Shadow Pokemon and their purification, just like in Pokemon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness. As it was teased at GoFest, there could also be a Team Rocket event that might link into this new mechanic. But as for now, it is simply just speculation, as data mines are not always 100% accurate as to what is seen in the games. And now on to the Marvel news. First up, I'd like to discuss the brand new app Marvel Hero Tales. This new app is aimed towards children that are between the ages of 7 and 11 years old and helps them develop their vocabulary by having them pass through stories as their favorite Marvel characters. The gameplay centers around the children choosing words that help them progress through the storyline. And personally, I cannot wait for my 8-year-old to try this game out, as I know he is absolutely going to love it, and he's already such a reading whiz that I think he'll take onto the games quickly. And for those as intrigued as I am about the actors that are picked for certain roles in the MCU, it has been confirmed by Kevin Feige himself that Keanu Reeves has been in discussion with heads at the MCU for quite some time over which role he very well could potentially fill in the franchise. Going on to say, "We talk to him for almost every film we make. We talk to Keanu Reeves about. I don't know when, if or ever he'll join the MCU, but we very much want to figure out the right way to do it." I personally am extremely excited for that, as I have always been a fan of Keanu Reeves, even when it wasn't popular to do so. The Matrix movies were a hallmark of my childhood, and just his overall demeanor and who he is as a person, I've always greatly respected. Speaking of another Hollywood type entering the Marvel ring, J.J. Abrams and his son Henry have been revealed to be releasing a brand new Spider-Man comic series, Spider-Man #1. Personally, I think this looks like it's shaping up to be a great rendition of the character and Spideyverse, as well as I have high anticipation for meeting the brand new villain Cadaverous. And finally in the discussion, I would like to go over loot boxes and the recent controversy that's been surrounding them in the mainstream news. Many governments have been analyzing whether or not this form of entertainment should be considered gambling and allowed for children to have access to. Now, like with a lot of these controversies, I feel like both sides have adequate viewpoints, and maybe there should be a middle ground that can be met to figure out what exactly is right and how we should proceed. Game developers would love to provide extra content that's not specifically in the games for these players to be able to enjoy if they would like. And it is a completely optional service that people do not have to participate in many cases, to be able to play these games. On the other hand, I can definitely understand how young children's minds can get addicted to these sorts of reward-based systems and how it can lead to the development of gambling habits. As a child who grew up with Farmville, excuse me if that dates me too much, I can definitely relate to how hard it was not to participate in those microtransactions and get the best things for your farm. As I got older, I understood that these things were not necessary to enjoy the game, and I really ultimately stopped purchasing them. I really do feel like there has to be a massive amount of responsibility that comes down to the parent as well in this situation, and teaching and guiding your child the appropriate and respectful way to play these games and enjoy this extra material even. And honestly, I really don't see anything wrong with a game developer deciding to add these sorts of transactions into a game, as long as they themselves understand the backlash and repercussion that could come from doing so, in losing some of their fan base who don't appreciate these kind of microtransactions in their games. EA definitely comes to mind and is usually the forefront of most conversations regarding this matter, and honestly I think only time will tell whether the gamer base that plays these games will really continue to put up with the overall use of the microtransactions so heavily. I think most players would rather just have a full completed game and then receive DLC later on that adds extra value to the game that they could then purchase, rather than feeling like for every single little thing they have to be dishing out money just to have something that can help them get through the games. But overall, guys, that really sums up the news this past week that interested me and my overall take and feelings about it, and I thoroughly hope you enjoyed this video. Please keep the conversation going in the comments down below of all the things that I talked about and how you feel about it. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, this is Professor Noki signing out for the News with Noki on Noki Talks. You say, hello, and welcome to the world of Pokemon.